My mom paid for my flight home, saying, "This is urgent." When I arrived, my sister gave me her child and smirked. "We're flying to Hawaii. You babysit him a week." I smiled, nodded, then did what they didn't expect. I'm ashamed of my sister. I've watched her treat Carter like a burden since the day he was born. She complains he ruined her figure, her freedom, her dating life. The truth is, she never even tried to be a mom. 2 weeks ago, my mom called, sounding tense. "This is urgent, Shane. Don't ask questions. Just come. I already booked your flight." I canceled everything. A whole weekend in Denver, including a game and hiking trip I'd planned for months. I assumed someone was dying. I landed in Phoenix thinking I'd rush to a hospital. Instead, Lindsay picked me up with a Starbucks and Carter in the back seat. She didn't say hi, just pointed at the car seat. "You're watching him for a week. We're flying to Hawaii in 3 hours. She blew a bubble with her gum and smirked. "Come on, it's not that deep. He sleeps like 10 hours a night." That's when I realized my mom had lied. They'd all conspired to get Lindsay a free babysitter while they jetted off to Maui. I didn't argue, just climbed in, buckled Carter in, and kept my mouth shut. For him, not them. Back at my parents' place, I sat through dinner while they raved about their wellness resort. Lindsay barely glanced at Carter. It made me sick. That night, after they left for the airport, Carter fell asleep on the couch beside me. His little hand curled around mine like he was afraid I'd leave too. At midnight, I packed a small bag, lifted him into his car seat, and drove to Mesa, to Isaac, his real father. Isaac opened the door in old sweatpants, looking stunned. I told him everything. I handed him the envelope I'd kept for years. Photos, messages, records proving he had a right to this child. I left Carter with him. Then I sent Lindsay one message. "He's with Isaac now. You'll need to come back." By morning, their paradise trip turned into a crisis. They were still in the air when the fury hit. Lindsay went from shouting in all caps to threatening to sue to begging. My parents pretended they didn't know Lindsay's plan. Complete garbage. I ignored every message. I wanted the reality to settle in while they were 3,000 miles away, helpless. When Lindsay got through around 8:3 a.m., she was hysterical. "You gave my son to Isaac? Are you insane? You don't seem to want him," I said. "He looked happy to see someone who does." She accused me of kidnapping, said Isaac wasn't even the father. "You could try court," I said, then hung up. An hour later, flight changes. First class. They were heading back after barely 24 hours. So much for the wellness retreat. I checked into a hotel and shut off my phone. Let them panic. That night, I visited Isaac again. He looked exhausted but glowing. Carter was curled in his lap, snoring with a toy truck on his chest. "I thought he'd freak out," Isaac said. He didn't. He just looked at me like he remembered. Fell asleep holding my sleeve. We talked for an hour. He told me he never believed Lindsay when she said he wasn't the father. He offered to take a test, but she blocked him, ghosted him, made up a new story. He gave up because he thought he didn't stand a chance. Now, he had one. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. Lindsay's car was already there. When I stepped inside, it felt like a courtroom. Lindsay pacing. My dad silent, arms crossed. My mom looked like she'd aged overnight. "What you did was reckless and cruel," my mom started. I told her what they did was worse. Lying to me, abandoning Carter, running off to Hawaii. "You had no right," Lindsay snapped. "He's mine. Isaac isn't even his dad." "You sure?" I asked. "Because I've got emails, photos, texts, everything you sent before you started lying." She froze, then scoffed and said something that stopped everything. "Whatever. I don't even care. I'm pregnant again. This guy from Tucson. We're not even sure we're keeping it. Carter's Isaac's problem now." My mom blinked. "What did you say?" Even my dad looked stunned, like he'd finally seen Lindsay for who she really was. I walked out without another word. Back at the hotel, I started making calls. Lawyers, court clerks, people who'd handled custody battles. Isaac needed support, and I was going to help him build the case. If Lindsay didn't want her child, fine, but she wasn't deciding who could love him.